Universal spiritual consultant Nicola Farmer joins Mystical Sisterhood to discuss the unique spiritual journeys of the children of today. Her work to guide children to remember the truth of their own intuition early in life and broader themes of spiritual evolution, including the call for us to continue evolving spiritually. She shares insights into Earth's transition towards unity consciousness and so much more. Let's get to the episode. Welcome back to Mystical Sisterhood. This is your host, Maureen Spielman, and today I am sharing space with Nicola Farmer. Nicola came to the podcast by way of Alicia Isaac's house. If you're a regular listener, Alicia and the wisdom she brings, and a newer connection, Athena, who's a great friend of Nicola as well. So I would like to just start by saying thank you, Nicola, for being here.
Oh, thank you. It's an absolute delight. Thank you for inviting me.
You're so welcome. You have a rather wide and deep body of work, and I had such a great time looking into different YouTube videos that were out there, looking over your website. I knew about your Inspiring Children Universally, but I'll first say to the listeners that you are a universal spiritual consultant whom I understand now, and I want to go across almost like the age groups you work with, and just we'll seed in a lot of ideas about your work today. But just taking a look at your work in consciousness and the breadth, the width of work you do. But I was going to say, I understand that you are a practitioner who has modalities coming to you quite often. And so your work has changed and grown throughout the years. A few that you have on your website were the astral harmonic assemblance, vagus nerve healing, inspiring children universal, which is a whole, we'll talk about that program for children, channeling light language. And I love the discovering me work for children, teens, and young adults. So I have a feeling that you're bringing in all that you're receiving and knowing just more expansively or exponentially over time to different age groups. So I will just start there and maybe ask you, where do you think is a logical place to start our conversation?
In my jokey way, I'd say at the beginning. Oh gosh, let's start at the youngest age, shall we? And
That's
then
what
work
I was
out.
thinking. Okay. So I've just heard across the years, children are closest to source
Yeah.
when they're born, when they come through. And so, can we just start with that premise and what you know about that and how that leads into the work that you're so inspired to do?
Yeah, they're the closest to source when they're born, as we also become closer to source when we reach the upper end of the age bracket as well. What is really important for the children is that they remain more connected to their right brains, because that's how we connect to source. And so when the children enter into educational systems, they're immediately integrated with their left brain. And that's where we can't be disconnected from source, but that's where the void starts to open between the left and the right brain, because teaching has to be logical and therefore the left brain has to be active. So
Mm-hmm.
it's very important that we can maintain a level of development with children's right brains through creativity, etc., so that they remain in that energy. It's so important.
It is so important. Yes. And so when that left brain is activated, it feels like it becomes almost overactivated. I don't know if that would be an accurate way. Where is there then a forgetting of our creative nature, our spirit self, our the truth of who we know ourselves to be?
I would say it's overstimulated.
Overstimulated.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, I would say to a degree there's a sort of amnesia that comes in. But to be honest, Maureen, I'd say it's less now with the children, because so many children are having past life memories, experiences. And so what I understand is that the children are coming in with a much higher frequency. Several years ago, I was invited to take a journey to these golden pods that were suspended above sacred sites around the world, the pyramids, Chichen Itza, and various other places. And these were pods that were incubating brand new souls. And I was told that from 2020, these children would start to be born. And being new souls, they had no previous lives and no karma. They were bringing a whole new frequency to the earth. So I think that they are mingling with the children that do have previous lives, and these kids are remembering. To me, that is this just so exciting, because like when I was a kid, it was like complete psychic amnesia.
Right.
Maybe I didn't want to remember. There could be that to it as well. But these children are something else,
Okay.
and that's the way forward. Yeah.
Okay, so they're in this younger age bracket right now. If I have young mothers listening or grandparents, what differences are we seeing in these kids? How are they showing up?
They're showing up. Actually, let me just talk about appearance, if I may,
Yeah, sure.
because when my son was born, and he's going to be 40 next year, babies then look like little old people. And they had this sort of aged wisdom look to them. And the children that are being born now look new. They've
Hmm.
got that original baby face. I know it sounds crazy. So we're seeing this new frequency, and so many of the kids are being diagnosed with autism, or as I call it, authentism, because
Hmm.
the kids can't be anything other than authentic. And actually, that's what one of the major lessons they've come to teach humanity about being authentic. But they are bringing such high levels of wisdom and vibrational energies. They're tangible. You stand with one of the kids and you can feel the energy coming off of them. They're a lot more loving. They can still be extremely naughty if they have to be, or if they want to be. But there's just this knowing with them that they're going to take over the world one day. And this is really exciting.
That is exciting. And so, what is the learning that's there for the adults in their lives in terms of this authentic being coming into their presence? If everything, I believe this to be true, and I saw you say multiple times in interviews that even in the most challenging of times, there's a lesson in it for us.
Oh,
So,
absolutely.
is there a way that in which you invite the parents or adults in these children's lives to take on a new mindset or a way of believing?
Yeah, I think there's multiple things. I think the children are teaching us how to be more observant, how to listen more intently. They're teaching us about the truth, about, as I said, authenticity, but transparency as well. But ultimately, they're bringing a whole new consciousness, which I'm told is called Anu consciousness, is spelled ANU, because we came in to embody the Christ consciousness energy. They're bringing the Anu consciousness energy, which is going to take us to a whole new level as well. So, in being spiritually aware, we need to be able to observe and listen and use our intuition simultaneously. And
Mhm.
that's what they're coming to show us, how to observe, how to listen. And quite honestly, we don't have to work on intuition. It's such an integral, natural part of us being a human being, but we lack in the observing and the listening skills. And that's what they're coming to show us. It's
It's really
huge.
beautiful. It's
Yeah.
huge. I can see in my own evolution as a parent. My children are now 19 to 24, three children, and I had studied conscious parenting with a woman named Dr. Shafali Sabari. And she teaches a lot of looking inside and where are the places we need to heal. And through the journey of introspection and seeing where I had childhood work to do and seeing that there's nothing here to fix, there's just such unique individuality and reason, purpose of being for each of these children. What
Mm.
I'm seeing now unfold, even with 4 years of learning this material, the change that's occurring within myself. And you had said a quote around as the children grow, the families grow, and as the families grow, the community grows, and so on to this planetary realm. So thank you for that. Yeah.
No, you're very
Mhm.
welcome. You're very welcome. The other interesting thing is as well, is that, there's lots of work out there for adults about healing the inner child. And I was gifted some work from my spirit team about the inner child, and how the inner child actually doesn't need to be healed.
Mhm.
The inner child doesn't hold wounds, it doesn't hold trauma, and that we need to have a different relationship with our inner child, because the inner child is the missing link to wholeness for
Right.
human beings. But what's so amazing about the children is that if we teach them right now, they will go forward in life with their inner child being that joyful part of them. So they won't have to work for wholeness, it will automatically be there.
Yes, yes.
And that's priceless.
It's beautiful. It's so beautiful. So, how did you get into the inspiring children universally work, and what tell us more about that, because this conversation's all leading up to the trainings you do for the children and their families.
Yeah, so I trained with Dromvalo Melchizedek. He's based in Sedona. He does, his books are The Ancient Secrets of the Flower of Life. And I became one of his teachers. And while I was on the training, I met this lady from Mexico who was working with these children. Anyway, so long story short, I went to Canada to do the training and I brought the work back to the UK. And at that point, I was working with children and the only one with this particular method in the whole of Europe. And I kept getting messages from my spirit team to say, we want you to train teachers, we want you to spread this around. And I was like, yeah, of course I will. That's not a problem. Anyway, I contacted people in Mexico and they were having nothing of it. I just said to my team, leave me alone. I'm just going to go on and work with the children. And then they left me alone for a while. And then this voice from consciousness kept saying, but we really want you to train teachers. And I said, no, go away, as you do. And then one day they said to me, they said the same thing again. And I said, look, please leave me. I'm not taking somebody else's work forward. I haven't got their blessing. And this voice said to me, but you haven't asked us how.
Mm.
And I said, okay, how then? And they said, get a pen and some paper to write down. And they downloaded the ICU method, the Inspiring Children Universally.
Wow.
I tried it on the kids and they loved it, and it was quick and quirky. And so I put together a teacher training program and rolled it out around the world.
What does the actual training entail? I've watched the videos, but if you can tell the listeners.
I will. So we work with children for 10 or 12 sessions, and the 10 or 12 depends on their development. But we take them through a process where these children are consciously connected to the whole of the universe, whereby they are connected with their outer consciousness with the ability to be able to do anything that their heart desires. But one of the main features of this work is that the kids can read completely blindfolded. They could ride a bike, they could do anything because they align with their spirit, and their spirit sees in a conscious way with the complete integration with the child.
That's so amazing.
Yeah,
Does it have a certain window of ages that it works best with?
it does. So we have the age brackets between 6 and 12. 6 being the youngest because they have to be able to sit still for an hour and also be able to read or at least identify letters and words. And 12 is the upper limit, depending on the child's level of maturity. But normally by the age of 12, they're reaching puberty and they're also fully engaged with their left brain at that point.
Mm-hmm. You went ahead and you trained teachers in these modalities. Is it usually in alternative schools? Like, how are schools and teachers bringing it into their classrooms?
It's not in schools.
It's out of school. Okay.
Not yet, I might say.
Not yet.
That is one of my dreams, to get it into mainstream education, but I think that's quite a long way off just yet. But the teachers that I train, they're just regular parents, adults who basically feel the calling from their soul to do the work. And then each teacher works with children individually. It's very difficult to teach them in groups because children are very competitive. So the children are taught one-on-one and they just go through this program where, to be honest with you, the outcome, we have no expectation of the outcome because we know that what we're doing with the children is completely soul-led, not only by the teacher, but by the child as well. Not all children see blindfolded, but every child goes through some form of transformation whereby they believe in themselves so much that anything is possible. And to see them transform is just the purest magic you could ever imagine.
Oh, I would imagine. Yeah. I think I had seen when I looked at the website for ICU, maybe a couple parents who had been trained as teachers as well. And just they were talking about the transformation they had seen in their own children. And it's so remarkable.
Yeah, we have children leap in education. We have children go from very low confidence to high confidence. There have been healings, physical healings. But one thing most parents report back, and that is their child has become more loving. All children are loving, but even if it's possible for them to become 1 degree more loving,
Yeah.
we can tick big boxes on the program because every child should be able to express themselves in a way of love as well.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for that. At the current moment, what would you say? Do you hold vision for inspiring children universally? Is there just expansion going on there?
There is a bit of expansion, and it's
Mhm.
been really amazing since a documentary came out on Gaia TV and then the movie on Netflix as well. And there's a big interest around the world from adults to become teachers. And I have full on programs every year, which is such a blessing because
Yeah.
these adults who become teachers are taking a massive leap of faith in learning something that most people would believe is impossible and taking it out into a world and gifting it to the children, knowing that as we get older and the children become teenagers and adults, we're paving a way for a much brighter future. And if
Mhm.
we can do it in one tiny way, then the legacy we're leaving is really special.
I agree it is too. And I can see just from the different pockets of this work that's being done, whether it's the conscious parenting, whether it's your work, it's like it is growing. It's growing by the month, by the week,
Yeah.
by the month. Then we take a look at where children are now, let's say from that age 12 to even 25.
Mhm.
And there's a lot of challenges within this age group with a lot of anxiety, fear, both I think from the children and maybe even the parents. But what are the messages here? And is this part of the Discovering Me program you developed?
Yeah, I realized there was a major gap in teenagers and young adults, and they're kind of a lost generation,
Yeah.
how I see it, because they've gone through a lot of turmoil in their lives in education and various other ways. So I put together the Discovering Me program so that they could benefit because there's so many adult teachings out there, but there's a huge gap
Yeah.
in this spiritual development space. So, the Discovering Me is based on children understanding who they are energetically, who they are spiritually. But it doesn't even have to be have a spiritual slant on it. So we teach the kids about their energy field. Most people would know it as an aura. And we get them to look at how it feels in a contracted space, as
Mhm.
in the suffocation, the anxiety of feeling closed and trapped. And then we teach them how to expand their field so that they've got all that space around them to entertain and deal with everything in their lives without it being in a very closed environment. We teach them how to self heal, and we teach them also how to manage situations where they may feel uncomfortable, as in maybe being bullied or but we don't just teach them how to manage the bullying, we help them understand the bully,
Okay. Hmm.
the person themselves, get them to have an understanding of how that child or young adult feels that they have to be such a challenge to other people. And this has also been so enlightening to see a child transform in maybe 1, 2, or 3 sessions.
Yeah.
So there was that huge gap that needed to be filled.
Hmm.
And it's beautiful work as well.
Yeah, I feel that you're right. Like the programs I've gone through leading me to remember that I am a spiritual being. If what you're saying about this group, and if even I personally look at it like, oh, this is a difficult population to, I'm going to use the word treat, that's not right, but like lead or guide.
Facilitate, yeah.
Yeah, if I go at it like that, there's a wall of separation that's occurring between the two. So I do think it's that unraveling of, okay, Maureen, then where are you stuck? What's happening for you? But it's really exciting for me because I can say in my own home, my third child, who's 19, he was around a lot when I started to learn. So then
Yeah.
we would have the conversations and we did. And I think that's a beautiful way to even begin, is just to seed these conversations. But I really am curious about the discovering me work and the changes we can see, because I've been schooled a lot around, let's look at the emotional side. But it's
Yeah.
leaving out this component of our energy field, that we are energy, that we're spiritual beings. So I
Yeah.
really love this.
And what's really lovely is that they get it straight away.
That
There's no
is.
questions. Even with the little ones, when you put a blindfold on them, they don't say why. They just put it on, and they're not phased by being able to see blindfolded. The older ones aren't phased by me saying to them, here's the energy of your greatest inspirer. Go stand in it. Tell me what you feel. And they just go stand in it.
Mhm.
And it's like, oh, they're so open and ready and desperately needing this work, because school will nurture their brain, home life will nurture other things, friends will nurture the social side, and who's nurturing their spiritual side?
Absolutely. Yes, yes. I love, in something you said on a video I watched, you were talking about this concept of, I'm going to say rising in consciousness. I forget exactly how you said it, but there's these paradigm shifts that are happening. And then
Mhm.
you made reference to the new earth. Can we just spend a moment on that, so the
Yeah.
listeners that don't know this concept yet can begin to think about it?
Yeah,
Hmm.
absolutely. Earth has been a third dimensional planet for 13,000 years, and it used to be a fifth dimensional planet. And unfortunately, it fell through those layers of consciousness where it became what we call a planet of duality consciousness, meaning everything has an opposite. So the Earth shifting is a way that Earth will become what we call a unity consciousness planet again, where we're living from our hearts rather than our minds. And for me, the term or simplest explanation for ascension is stop living in your head and start living in your heart. So that earth shifting is a way of humanity becoming more spiritually aware. But for them to become aware, they have to become awake first.
Okay. Hmm.
And Earth is already a fourth dimensional planet, but Mother Earth is having to keep the illusion of the third because there wasn't a quantum mass of awakened human beings. And it was quite interesting because I did get told a few years ago that they were reaching the quantum mass of awakened human beings. And I sat back in my chair and took this great big deep breath. And Anna, who's one of my guides, she said, sit up straight, the work now begins. And I said, you're kidding me. So she said, no. She said, they're awake, but now they have to become aware.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, oh my goodness, this is a whole new level of work and understanding. So there needs to now be a quantum mass of aware human beings, spiritually aware, so that Earth, she can lift the veil of the third dimension, basically. It's happening. There are a lot of trials and tribulations on this planet right now. And this is globally, as we all know. But actually, energetically, there's a big air of excitement
Hmm.
because we are
Yeah.
reaching new levels of understanding. And because that veil, as we call it, between consciousness and earth is now practically non-existent, I'm seeing people wake up and become aware every day. So as that happens, earth will shift back into unity consciousness, and then we'll have a much more harmonic planet.
I can see why the title, the universal spiritual consultant that you have, like, it's hard to encapsulate that, but that's essentially what you're encapsulating.
Yeah.
So thanks for the beautiful description. And so what is the call for first the awake, then the aware, and then are there necessary steps that we are moving towards to bring that consciousness out into the world?
Absolutely.
Mhm.
We talk about light workers and we talk about people who are consciously aware. And there has been a great divide opening, a big void between the asleep and the awake. And then on the awake side, we've got the awake, the aware, and the conscious. And so what I'm being told is as that void gets wider, the people on the asleep side won't, they'll be oblivious to what's happening. The people on the awake side need to keep evolving. So if you've woken up to spirituality, you have an awareness of it, and you're conscious of everything that's happening, then the evolution has to continue, because otherwise what will happen is, as the void gets wider, light workers will fall into the void. We cannot afford to stand still. But when the void reaches its maximum gap, the people on the awake side, especially the conscious people, we will start to build a bridge back to the asleep side. And that's why we have to keep evolving.
Yeah.
I'm talking metaphorically about falling into the void. But if you're still doing spiritually what you were doing 10 years ago, you're at risk of falling into the void. So anybody that listens to this who is practicing spiritually or has an awareness or something, keep moving forward. Don't stand still, don't go back, don't go left or right, just keep moving forward. Because when that void reaches its maximum capacity, it's going to take a lot of us to build the bridge.
And does that mean for a person who's on the path of being an evolving spiritual being, what are some first steps? Like, not that they're steps, but is it leaning into what your guides are telling you, where you're being guided to learn? What do you listen to this podcast today? Oh my gosh, what they're saying really excites me. I'm going to go look. Like, does it sort of look like just following what's coming to you?
Being very present, being aware of opportunities that present themselves.
Okay.
And at every opportunity that presents, run with it. Have no attachment to outcome, because we might see an opportunity and have an idea of what it's going to lead us to, but it could be something completely different. And it's about embracing everything that the universe is offering right now, so that you might feel that by taking this course presents itself and you think, I'm going to take that course, but actually, what am I going to learn? Is there going to be anything that's going to take me to another level? That doesn't matter. Do it anyway, because going back to basics is still learning. And listening to other people and observing, that to me is all part of the learning. And this is going to happen to everybody, regardless of where we are on that path. There's going to be more and more challenges. But for me, the challenges are the greatest opportunity to learn, to grow, to develop and move forward. I had a conversation with Anna many years ago, and I said to her, in ancient times, there were mystery schools and you got invited to go to the mystery school to become more enlightened. Why don't we have them today? And she said, but you do. And I said, but surely not like they were in ancient times. She said, no, but the mystery schools of today is called life. And she said, every challenge that you experience is like you've been invited to the mystery school to become more enlightened. She said, what is so frustrating is that people aren't recognizing that these challenges are there to help them grow.
Yes. And what do we know about life? Is it just, does it keep on presenting things that will wake us
Yeah.
up, get our attention?
Yeah. And I might have been challenged in the past and think, oh no, not again. And now a challenge is, yes, what is this going to bring us?
Right. Yes. How do you think of that in terms of our soul's journey and what that means on our soul's path?
I feel our souls are so complete that anything that we do on a human level and evolve on a human level is adding value to the soul. But do our souls need to develop anymore? Because they're pure and perfect in every way. So why are these challenges there to push us, to get us to a whole new level? And I honestly believe that is so that we can embody the soul in human form rather than see it as a separate entity.
Yeah.
And if those challenges help us become more perfect every day, then we are being the soul, not seeing it as something that we should be working with.
And it feels that when we see our lives in these different ways, I sit where I sit, but there's just so much compassion and unconditional love for ourselves. And going
Oh,
back to, you were saying the autistic children is here to teach us love, that we are love. They're pure love in a package, in a body, in a set of circumstances in a way, but being invited to just see all of this in such different ways.
I know. And a lot of us are experiencing quite physical challenges as well. But I'm reliably informed that this is because a lot of us who originate from the universal systems, the stars, the planets, the galaxies, and everything, this is likely to be our last lifetime. And so our physical bodies are having to be prepared in higher frequencies, because when we leave this body for the last time and return back to the level of consciousness that we came from out there in the stars, we're having to be prepared now. So
Mhm.
that's where the physical bodies are being challenged, because we're becoming less and less dense, because that spirit light, that consciousness light is ready to go home.
Yeah, so I think that you had said that everything is perfect and an opportunity to see the light. That reminds me. We've covered, Nicola, the children, the young children, the middle ages, as we what we're being called to for into our adulthood. I see a lot in my worlds because I've done these beautiful coaching programs. They're like mini masses of people coming to the messages,
Yeah.
to that bridge. But what else? I know you've got work with vagus nerve healing. You have said that everything you do is about healing. But is
Yeah.
there anything else that comes to mind in this moment to an important message that you're here to deliver today, or any other perspectives that are coming to you?
Earth is one of the most magnificent planets in the universe, and it's what we call the playground of the universe. It's
Mm,
stunningly beautiful in so many ways. And I feel that whatever time we have left on this planet, it's so important to make it joyful. Regardless of circumstances, regardless of situations, challenges, etc., it's about time we all started to see the beauty in everything
yeah. Mhm.
and feel the passion and the levels of joy that we have within us, to be able to be inspirational to everybody else.
Yeah.
You would never know with me generally what was going on the outside and on the inside. Because for me, it's not about wearing a mask, it's about being that positive person all the time. And knowing that if I can inspire one person to smile, then I've done a good job that day. But it needs to be contagious. We need to be able to inspire others to find their passion, find that joy within them, so that we can begin to create a ripple through humanity that rises above all the density that is out there right now. I always say there's a very fine line between being anxious and being excited. The feelings are very similar. The feelings of
Mhm.
anxiety are also the feelings of excitement. But because the human mindset is to err on the side of negativity,
Okay.
people will automatically say, "Oh, I feel so anxious today." But actually, have they ever stopped to think that maybe there's an excitement there?
That's exciting.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's beautiful. I hadn't thought
yeah.
of that before.
And you said about the vagus nerve. The vagus nerve is that nerve in the body that is part of the autonomic nervous system. So if we say that anxiety is the sympathetic nervous system and excitement is the parasympathetic nervous system, we're talking about minute frequencies of difference, whether your vagus nerve is toned or undertoned or overtoned even. And so we have it within us to be able to make those shifts consciously into the positive mindset and enjoy the excitement and the feeling of excitement rather than be dragged down by the feeling of anxiety. And it's up to us to make those choices on how I'm going to feel today, because power has been taken away from the people. Common sense has been taken away,
Yeah.
and we need to gain it back. We need to regain our power and make it so that we can be the inspiration to others.
This whole conversation has been so inspiring to me. And the one thing that I know is that the resources are here for us too.
Yes.
As I just celebrated the 100th episode of this podcast and just bringing in these resources, and something's going to be on your vibration. Something's going to wake something up in you that's something that you haven't heard before. That's one thing that inspires me about this work, is just to bring it forward, and all these places that we used to marginalize and keep on the outskirts and make them strange, or people will call woo, or all these things, is no, they're being invited in to be considered along with everything we have.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm.
But the key to this is wherever we are on our spiritual path, we need to be ready to share those experiences with others so that they can start their own path,
Yeah.
because we all need to become leaders. I was working with a client and she said that her dream is to have a spiritual center as big as Starbucks on
Mm-hmm.
every corner of every street. And I said to her, it doesn't need to be that big. We just need one spiritual person standing on the corner of every street.
Wow. Yes, yes. Beautiful vision. I love that.
Just one person to inspire another.
A lot of sort of examples that you've put out today just remind me of a lot of just the washing away, the shedding, the letting go, and doing so through how you had mentioned the inner child work and going back, and I think even just realizing our wholeness and knowing even that concept right there is a concept that many they're not aware of. And to
Yeah.
come back to this wholeness, and you are essentially goodness and brilliance and abundance and all the things that we think we have to work for. What if we knew that they were essentially right there just to be uncovered?
They're all there. We've either forgotten or it's been conditioned out of us.
Mm.
We are everything. We don't have to manifest things, because if we manifest it, we're manifesting it through the brain. The brain is duality consciousness. So you might get what you've manifested, but you'll get something that you didn't ask for as well. If we
Mhm.
dream through our hearts, then we are likely to get what we need for our highest good. But for me, it's I just trust the universe to bring me what is necessary for me to live my life and continue to move forward in my life and evolve and develop and evolve and develop. It's that level of trust that is so important, that the universe has got our back, you know.
For real. And the more examples we have of people stepping into this and showing us that it's true, then that just something, that glimmer, that sparkle
Yeah,
gets turned on, and
yeah,
we begin to believe it maybe is for us too.
yeah.
Yeah.
My husband said to me earlier today, he said, "Do you really believe that coincidences don't exist?" I said, "Absolutely." So he said, "There's no such thing as a coincidence." I said, "No, never." I
Hmm.
said, "It's all divinely guided."
Yes. Yes. So, and the understanding that so beautiful. I remember Alicia, it was either Alicia or our good friend Valerie telling me that when those happen, there's behind the scenes work being done to get that experience to you. I love that.
Yeah, I call it the mission weavers. I
Mm.
have this vision that, like you have air traffic control towers at the airports, I have this vision that the universe has a mission weaving tower, and it's filled with mission weavers, and God will walk in and say, right, that lady in Chicago must meet with that lady in Essex, make it happen. And until this day, they've been weaving this web to bring us together. And now we're sitting here talking to each other. God walks into the mission tower and says, well done, guys. And they all high five each other.
Yeah, I could not. That brings me so much joy. Nicola, I just, hopefully, this is not our only conversation, to be continued. Just so much gratitude for you. And any parting comment, and then where can the listeners find you?
A parting comment: live and be happy.
Love it. So simple.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. And it can be simple. It can, we can
Oh,
get there. Yeah.
well, one other thing here is that I'm constantly told by consciousness that most of humanity have been through the university and life and come out with PhDs in complexity, but very
Mm-hmm.
few have a PhD in simplicity.
It's good. Yes, divinely guided there.
The main website is nicolafarmer.com, and you can find the other three websites through there. If anybody's particularly interested in the work with the children, it's icuacademy.co.uk.
Okay, perfect. All right, we'll put them in the show notes. And thank you to you. Thank you to the listener. This was an incredibly insightful and joyous conversation for me today.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate the time with you.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Mystical Sisterhood. To learn more about my one-on-one coaching programs or join the Mystical Sisterhood membership, visit maureenspielman.com or mysticalsisterhood.com. Thanks so much. I'll see you in the next episode.